Turnware is proud to sponsor Aftersight's Navigating Life with Vision Loss podcast series. At Turnware, we provide managed IT services and custom-built hardware that help organizations stay secure and connected. We're honored to support these important conversations on safety, accessibility, and innovation. On behalf of Turnware and Aftersight, please enjoy this episode of Navigating Life with Vision Loss.
Welcome to Navigating Life with Vision Loss, an Aftersight original podcast. In each episode, we share stories, insights, and practical advice to help you navigate the journey of living with low vision or blindness. Together, we'll embrace each step with courage, grace, and hope.
Hello, I'm Kim Wardlow, your host for Navigating Life with Vision Loss, and we are into our fall season on safety and various aspects of safety. And today we're going to talk about scams and frauds and how you can identify those and protect yourself from those so you don't become a victim of all those fraudsters and scammers that are out there. And as our guest today, we have Desiree Farley. She's the Community Protection Specialist with Boulder County's District Attorney's Office, and she has over a decade experience in public service. She's worked with aging populations. She now works with the Boulder County DA's office, helping residents navigate scams, technology fraud, and consumer protection issues. So welcome, Desiree. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I always find it interesting how folks get to particular jobs. Because I think folks might assume if you're working in the district attorney's office, you have a legal background. And I know that's not true for you. Do you want to tell folks just a little bit about yourself and how you gotten into doing this type of work?
Yeah, so most of my career, I've been working with area agencies on aging. I worked in Region 1 and Region 8 in Arizona and worked with the Boulder County Area Agency on Aging. This particular position had a strong focus on working with older adults. And so I applied, got it, but I'm actually an MSW. I'm a social worker. Mm-hmm. And I love that aspect of my job because I'm talking with people, getting to know their stories, and also providing resources to people.
That's great. And I know myself with some issues my father had, reaching out to the community protection specialist in the county where he lived here in Colorado. Does every county have a person like you?
I would say that they usually have some kind of consumer protection unit in each of the district attorney's offices. Sometimes if the DA's office is small, they might not. It might just be one particular attorney. But as far as the title community protection specialist, I believe I might be one of the only one in Colorado, and especially with a social worker background.
That's probably true. But folks could reach out to their own counties as we're talking about the different things here. There would be someone perhaps with a different title that might be able to help direct them.
Yeah. So folks can reach out to their own district attorney's offices. We even have people from all over the United States reaching out to us from Kentucky and Texas. And of course, we'll direct them to the appropriate places that they need to reach out to. So we don't turn someone away just because that they're just asking for resources. So, if they get to me, I'm a social worker, I'm trying to help, and I'll get them to where they need to be.
Great. Well, I know there's just lots of scary things out there, and it seems like there are new things. And now with AI being able to mimic people's voices and all sorts of things, that there's lots of scams out there. So in your role, what are you doing in your role as you're working with folks in this area?
So it's a lot of my job is education in general to the public about what kind of scams are coming down the pipeline. Also, how to recover from those scams. So a lot of my job is not only educating in presentations, but one-on-one when people reach out to us or come to our office and say that they have been a victim of a scam, trying to explain to them what recovery looks like. And depending on the type of scam, they may need to report it to the FBI, to local law enforcement, to the Attorney General's office. So really, every time we get someone to our door where they have a specific issue, we try to hear them out because not every situation is the same, and making sure that they have the resources and the support that they need to get through that recovery.
In addition to perhaps, financial damage or, those types of things, those types of losses, I can imagine just the psychological impact on victims, just feeling embarrassed that maybe they fell for a scam, but it is good for people to reach out and to try to get help in recovery and know what they can and need to do.
Absolutely. So AARP has a really good recovery group because by the time people reach out to us, sometimes it's way past the point of recovering any kind of financial loss. And at that point, it's more emotional, especially when it comes to a romance scam where someone realizes that the person that they thought they were in a loving relationship with really doesn't exist, and they took them for $3,000, $50,000, or $300,000. So we definitely try to encourage people to seek the mental health resources. Here in Boulder County, what we hear a lot from victims is that they were smarter than this, that people have PhDs, master's degrees, and they can't believe that they fell for a scam. But what the data shows is that scammers really they can latch on to anyone. It doesn't matter income status, it doesn't matter educational level. It's really sparking into that emotional side for people and getting them to react. So whether it's a grandparent scam where you think your loved one it got into a car accident in another country, or even down in Denver, and the scammer's telling you that, or if it's someone reaching out on a dating site and looking for a love interest. It really, scammers these days are really tapping into that emotional side to every individual that they're reaching out to.
Yeah, and they've gotten very sophisticated
Mhm.
at that. Um, what if a person feels like, well, what's the point of me reporting this? They're never going to catch this person anyway. Why is it important for a person to report if they've been the victim of a scam?
I think in my position, it's important for people to report simply so that we know what exactly is going on in the community. So, in my role as community protection specialist, a lot of the scams or crimes or public safety issues that we hear about is because we talk to the community, we talk to individuals. For example, I think it was in Douglas County that they had a EBT scam scare where people
Mhm.
were reaching out to EBT card holders and saying that they were calling from the county human services department and they needed the EBT numbers. We got wind of that through the other county, and we proactively wanted to let people know that this is a possibility, that scammers could be reaching out to you asking for your EBT numbers. And we let people know that if that happens, our human services department would never do that. And you can report it in these ways. And then also providing tips on how to protect your EBT account.
Well, that's a great example of a specific type of scam. Um, let's move on to that, talking about maybe some of the, hesitate to say more popular, but the more prevalent scams that you're seeing these days. Are they device related? Are they online?
A lot of them are online. I think the ones that we hear about the most are tech scams, where you're on a website, you're either shopping for something or researching something, and a pop up comes on your screen. And it usually will have the Microsoft logo or maybe the Apple logo. And it will say that something is wrong with your computer, that there is a virus or a Trojan or something wrong with your computer, and you need to contact Apple immediately. And that pop up
Mhm.
will provide that phone number to call. Now, if people aren't very savvy with their tech and know that this is potentially a scam, then they will call the number. They will talk with an individual, and that individual will usually pass them along to their supervisor. At that point, once they kind of have your attention, they will ask you to download an application to your computer or even to your iPad or your cell phone. And what this application is it gives full access of your computer to that individual. And it doesn't take very long for the scammer to download anything that they need through that process. They may also lock you out of your financial accounts by changing passwords. So that's probably one of the harder ones to work through, because not only do you have this sense of needing to fix the problem because something's wrong with your computer, and we all use our computers, but also that they will lock you out, and then you can't maneuver through your financial accounts or your online accounts. So this person will have all of that and use all of that to further their scam. This is kind of how we see like Facebook scams a little bit. Is someone gives the access to their computer, and then all of a sudden your friend may be requesting information from you or money from you, but it really isn't the friend.
And that can be tricky. Like you might initially think, oh, I've got a message from my friend I haven't talked to in a while, or my brother.
Yep.
And it's really, you might not know immediately, but it's really kind of looking for those signs and knowing, I think that you can stop, even if you've gotten to the point where they've said, oh, let me have you talk to my supervisor, trying to make you feel comfortable, that you can just be like, nope, I'm not downloading anything, and and close that out.
And that's really why we encourage people, like if you get a phone call, you don't know who it's coming from, you don't need to pick it up. If it's important enough, they'll leave a message. If it's a pop-up, just close things out. You can always go back to the website. And also, kind of, this is what gets a little bit hard. Some of those websites that people go to where there's pop-ups, we really need to learn how to decipher if a website is legitimate or not. And that's where it becomes really hard, because if we see deals online for 75% off clothes or something, then we gravitate to that. And we want to purchase the product. But then there might be those pop-ups, or even the website itself might be fraudulent.
That's a key thing too, to think about and try to be sure that the sites you're going to are actual legitimate sites. So those are kind of computer related. In terms of calls, if people are getting calls, because it's, as you said, if it's somebody you don't know, a number you don't recognize, you can just not answer. But there are scams now where they're spoofing numbers, and it looks like it's somebody you know, or it looks like it's your granddaughter or something. And it may even now, with some of the AI voices, even sound like them. Can you speak to those types of scams?
So when a phone call comes through and it's from a 303 number, 720 or 970 number, a lot of what I hear people say is like, well, I don't know if it's my doctor, and I've been waiting for a call from my doctor. Again, let it roll to voicemail. Or you can contact your doctor as immediately after that phone call comes through if there's no message. If you pick it up and it looks like it's a number from someone that I think generally the hello and start talking, but there'll be kind of clues that the person will be needing something from you. For example, I don't really expect my daughter to call me and ask me for my social security number or ask me for money, because that's really not how our relationship is. But in these days of AI, one of the things I tell people is creating a safe word, kind of going back to the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, where you have a safe word with your family and you utilize that safe word. This has helped a lot of people in preventing like grandparent scams, where someone gets a call and it's their grandson, and he would ask, well, what's my grandson's middle name? And then the person would hang up. Or asking, okay, what's our safe word for the family? And then the person would hang up because they know that they're caught. They can't provide that information. It's kind of anti-tech a little bit, but it can help and prevent any of those AI type of systems getting that information, because it would be unique. And it wouldn't be written down either.
Right. And it doesn't require another app or another technology. Yep. It's just old school.
Yep. Old school.
Yep. And when we're looking at our devices and trying to, prevent getting scammed, what role does making sure your software is updated play in that?
It actually provides a huge benefit. So I have an Apple phone, and I know that in September, they usually have a big update to their software. I try to get on it, update my software, and then afterwards, usually there'll be like one or two additional updates. This is where we forget to update it because we just focus on the big one. Well, what people don't realize is there's all these updates because people learn different ways to navigate through the software that they develop, and it creates cybersecurity issues with your phone, your iPad, your computer. So it's really important to keep those things updated because they acknowledge where the risks are and they try to prevent those cybersecurity leaks to happen on all your devices. I know it's kind of annoying because when I tell people like update your
Yeah.
software, I even get after my own parents when they haven't updated their software. Anytime they come and visit, I make sure to look at their phones and look at if there's a software update needed. But one of the problems too with that is that sometimes the companies no longer support cybersecurity software for certain devices once they hit a certain age. So a lot of those older iPhones are no longer supported. And it's kind of a burden for the consumer, especially if someone's on a fixed income, to have to go and purchase a new phone.
Mm-hmm. But sometimes that it becomes a safety issue.
Yep.
So that can be important if there is a way to get not necessarily the latest and greatest, but a somewhat newer device.
Exactly.
Yeah. In addition to updating things and looking at what the URLs are and trying to be sure you're going to things that are legitimate, your location can matter too, and with Wi-Fi and things. If you're out and think, well, I'm going to do some things here as I'm sitting having my coffee in a coffee shop or on a public Wi-Fi network.
Absolutely. So the safest way is using your internet at home, assuming that you set up your router and your Wi-Fi with a very safe password. I don't think a lot of us know that when we get our routers and set up our Wi-Fi that we need to change our passwords, but that's going to be the safest. But when we go out into the community and we're walking around downtown in Longmont or Boulder or Denver, usually those places will offer free Wi-Fi. But we need to watch out for the free Wi-Fi because there is safety risks there. We don't know who else is using that Wi-Fi. So what I tell people is if you're going to use public Wi-Fi, it's fine. Just don't be looking up your financial accounts on that public Wi-Fi or sharing any of your financial information, like purchasing anything through Wi-Fi. It's okay if you want to look for a restaurant in the area or, look at your map, but all that information that you hold that needs to be held securely, just wait until you're in your private Wi-Fi or using your own data through your cell phone.
Yeah.
And then also libraries or places that have public
right.
computers. We've heard of situations where it was a pop-up text scam when someone was checking their bank account on a library public computer, and they fell for the scam and they started making calls, but then they realized that this wasn't a legitimate bank representative.
So if possible, I realize for some individuals that library access is their only access, but just to be really, really careful how you're using that. Well, we've talked a lot about things on your computer, on your phone, on your devices, but there are other types of fraud out there as well, especially I think of this time of year where we've had some thunderstorms, maybe some hail. If folks have, damage to their roof or just doing remodeling or something, there's some of those scams I think we've heard about as well, where it's not something using technology, but it's still kind of, again, maybe a more old school type of scam.
Yeah. I think another big part of my job is listening to folks who are homeowners and they had work done on their home. And maybe that contractor received the payment and then never showed up to do the work. So here in Colorado, we're all familiar with the hailstorms that we get. But as soon as those hailstorms are done, usually we get people coming door to door to ask us about our roofs. They may even tell you that there's a problem with your roof, assuming that I'm not a roofer, but they usually assume that people don't know and can't see their roof. And so they'll offer their services. They'll use a lot of business tactics to try to make that sale. And then sometimes when they do come and do that work, it might be shoddy work or they might not come at all. And then they walk away with that payment. That happens pretty frequently when the weather gets nice here in Colorado. Also, any kind of door-to-door sales other than like roofing. It could be siding. It could be selling magazines, car cleaning products. Just be a little suspicious of this person coming to your door. Also, for people who live in municipalities, check with your local city or town to find out if you have requirements for door-to-door sales. So, for example, in the city of Boulder, they have a requirement that anyone who's going door-to-door their business has to be registered with the city, as well as paying a fee and a fee for each person that is going door-to-door. And they also require those folks who are selling the products to be wearing badges with their name and information on it. So sometimes if someone comes to your door and they don't have that information, you can always ask them if they registered with your local city or town. And then sometimes that will have them, step away from the door and not bother the rest of the neighborhood.
Right. That's always good. And even if you're actively looking for a contractor, to really do that due diligence as well. Maybe not just call the number that you see on the sign at the side of the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So we always recommend at least 3 places of contractors that you're looking at. And what kind of gets people is they want something done quickly. But with this, it's your home. It's probably your largest investment. So you want to make sure that you're doing it right. So getting those 3 referrals, checking with the Secretary of State to see if they're registered, checking with the Better Business Bureau to make sure that there are no complaints, and not just looking at the reviews. You can call our office to find out if there's been any complaints with that specific business, if it's located here in Boulder County. You can also probably check with other DA's offices because they also have complaints listed. I can tell you my process when people come and they have a contractor issue or they have a question about a contractor. We definitely do a web search. We find their website, see how long that website's been online. Sometimes we'll reach out to the business and ask them questions about their business practices. We will review the Better Business Bureau. We look up the registry. Sometimes we want to know if there are any open civil accounts. So we might look into that. But we try to dig around online to find any public information about that specific business.
That's great information. So even with all of these preventative measures, we know that folks still get taken in by scams, or sometimes it's not even a scam. You'll get that notice that says, your healthcare provider or, some other, sometimes it's even been the VA, some company or service you're associated with has had information stolen. So that puts your information at risk. So if you get a letter like that, or you realize, oh, I clicked on something bad and now they have my information, or I think I've been taken in by a scam, what are the first steps that you should take?
So if any money was exchanged, contacting your financial institution immediately. A lot of times it's credit cards, and credit cards have their investigation of fraud departments, and they will hop on it. But one of the main things is not to remain isolated. I think a lot of people think that, oh, well, I'm not going to report it because, it was only $20. But that $20 may mean that they have your financial information.
Right.
if it's if you have information about the person that collected the money, going to law enforcement, or even contacting us, and we can help guide through the steps after we kind of ask some questions and listen about what actually happened to guide on what the most appropriate steps are. But by far, going to your financial institution first to stop the money from being moved. It gets a little different when someone may have used cryptocurrency, because usually that's you're pulling out your own money out of your checking and then putting it into an ATM. And speaking of cryptocurrency, legitimate businesses don't always use cryptocurrency. I know some larger businesses do, but typically businesses don't use cryptocurrency. They won't have you pull out money out of your own bank account and go to an ATM at a gas station or liquor store and put in that money and then take pictures of the receipts to send to them. That's not how cryptocurrency works with those businesses that do accept it.
Yeah, that would be a big warning sign if you're asked to do anything like that.
Yeah.
And then it's possible to freeze your accounts as well, or like your credit cards, or put something on it. So obviously, if you know you've been scammed, you would freeze that and get a new card, or that you might have to open a new account. But you can also put a kind of a freeze so companies can't get in and check your credit and do those kinds of things as well.
Yeah. So all the major credit companies, there's two things that you can do. You can either put a fraud alert on your account or a credit freeze. I always suggest a credit freeze. If people aren't opening up lines of credit, then a freeze is really the way to go. It's pretty easy to take off if you do need to sign up for any kind of credit card, or sometimes people need it for life insurance. But keeping a credit freeze can protect from someone else opening up a line of credit under your name.
Yeah, that can be important if you think not just information, but maybe they've gotten like your social security number or something that would be more your identity.
Yeah. And I kind of want to go back to what you mentioned about you receive a letter and it says that your information was breached. We get a lot of questions about those letters, and specifically because a lot of people, one, they don't open their mail, or if they do and they see that, they're not quite sure if it's legitimate. We can always look that up to see if a business has like a data breach, because I know during COVID, there were a few different major data breaches with Medicaid and some credit unions. So people can always reach out to their local district attorney's office to find out if that is legitimate or not.
That's good advice. I know from my own experience, the county district attorney's office has been very helpful in those kinds of situations, knowing what to do. So you mentioned AARP in terms of some of that support for folks that have been a victim of a scam or fraud. Are there other agencies or resources people should be aware of?
AARP, I love their articles. I'm always reading their articles. The Federal Trade Commission as well. That's really kind of the clearinghouse of where all reports go. They collect a lot of data on what types of scams and frauds are happening out in the United States. Your local district attorney's office, the attorney general's office with the state of Colorado, they also take in complaints and will produce press releases on any kind of major scams. And then also the Better Business Bureau. A lot of people don't only think of the Better Business Bureau as providing those A through F ratings, but they also provide reviews and, more importantly, complaints. Those complaints, the Better Business Bureau does very similar to what the Attorney General's office and our office does, which is we try to get a response from the business to find out what exactly is going on and to resolve or mediate the issue.
That's really good advice and important, so people know that there are places that they can go to get information that's legitimate. There's so much you can Google anything, but you can't trust everything that comes up.
Exactly.
Is there anything else as we're drawing to a close here? I so appreciate you coming and sharing all this information. Is there any final advice or final words that you'd like to give to our listeners?
I think if you're not sure if something is a scam or maybe you do realize it, reach out. Reach out to our office, reach out to the AG's office, your local district attorney, your friend, your neighbor, your family member, because I think scammers really rely on isolating people so that they don't question if something is a scam or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely for all those listening, that is such great advice. Don't be isolated. It's perfectly fine to ask and reach out. If something is a scam, you may avoid a world of trouble for yourself of getting caught in a scam just by asking a question. Reach out to your local district attorney's office if you do have questions. I know some. I don't know, Desiree. Do you go and do speaking engagements like to senior centers or anything like that? I know some of the district attorney's offices do that, but I'm not sure they all do.
Absolutely. I have a presentation on scams and fraud, also on abuse in later life. I also have a presentation on what you need to look out for so you don't fall for contractor fraud, and also a presentation on used car purchases. So really trying to educate people on these major expenses that they may have throughout their life.
Great. Well, for those of you out there, if you belong to a senior center, to a group of any sort that has speakers, this might be, whether it's Desiree or your own local person, a great speaker and topic to have for one of your meetings and really be of benefit to all of those members of your groups. I hope everybody has found this information helpful. Next week, I'm kind of continuing along these lines. I know Desiree mentioned some of the online dating scams and how they can really trick people and they can be very hurtful. And we're going to be talking about safe online dating for the next episode. So you'll want to, if you are doing online dating, you will want to tune in for that. And as always, you can contact Aftersight at feedback@aftersight.org, or you can call us at 720-721-8856. And we always love any feedback or questions that you have. We appreciate getting that. And as always, we hope the information that you got today helps you navigate your life with vision loss.